Art Ensemble of Chicago are an American avant-garde jazz group who seem to skirt the line between serious and silly. They were born out of born out of the Association for the Advancement of Creative Musicians, who are an avant-garde collective of musicians, particularly with a leaning towards jazz, but not just. And as well as normal instruments, they also play a variety of world and ethnic instruments and toy instruments. So, nice stat. While playing in Europe in 1969, 500 instruments were used. They've got some members, they've had some past members, they've still got two members, and they've had a lot of guests appear on their albums and presumably on their tours as well. And they're known for playing with face paint on. So they had, in the listing of albums in Wikipedia, there are 5 albums that are in this list before they'd settled on this name, and they had several different names for largely the same people that became the Art Ensemble of Chicago. They then have released quite prolifically at times. So, for example, they released 7 albums in 1969 alone. They're still releasing. They have released an album this year, which is 2023. Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a review of the album Les Stances à Sophie, with very bad French pronunciation, by the Art Ensemble of Chicago, which was released in 1970 and is a soundtrack album for a French film. Before I go any further, I just want to confirm that in the introduction to the Art Ensemble of Chicago, I made that in 2023. It's now 2025, and they have released no more albums since then. So there's no extra information to give. Right, back to this album. It's my first time listening to it, and I hadn't realised it was a soundtrack. So I normally go through a process where I do a listen, and then a read, and then a listen. And the first listen is as blind and as informed as I can get. And then the second listen is an informed listen. And I hadn't picked up in the first listen that it was a soundtrack, which I guess is somewhat interesting. It means that it doesn't have some of the issues that some soundtracks have. But maybe any soundtrack by them wouldn't have those issues. So the issues are that they tend to feel disjointed and weird and in a weird order and stuff like that. Whereas, yeah, I didn't kind of notice anything like that. Let's do some descriptions. This is where it gets somewhat difficult. Broadly speaking, I would call this avant-garde jazz, but it's got elements of several other things in there as well. So there's jazz rock fusion, almost funk fusion stuff. The first track especially, which is quite a long track, has got quite a bit of that. It's also got like chamber classical, by which I mean classical instruments doing something that sounds classical-ish with a small number of instruments rather than a large number, which would be orchestral. And then there's quite a few free jazzy bits where people are doing things chaotically or very free improvisation or soloing. And sometimes it does do the very disconnected, discordant free jazz feel that I kind of associate with Sun Ra quite strongly nowadays. Even when it's more coordinated, it does have a looser feel than some music. It's kind of lo-fi in terms of the how tight it is in its recording. I like the first track quite a lot. As I said, there's kind of funk rock jazz soloing thing going on there. It has singing by Fontella Bass. I believe that's the right way of pronouncing her name. Interestingly, I did not know that that was the name of a person. I thought it was the name of a band up until about earlier today, basically. And then I thought, oh, well, I wonder if my pronunciation of it as Fontella Bass has always been wrong. And it has, probably, I think. So, nice voice as well, by the way. And the thing that I found interesting as well about that track is that it has a repeated pattern with harmonic lines and then one line in the pattern that's discordant and chaotic. But it feels like it's scripted because it feels like it's the same every time. So it's like they do, twice through a pattern and then they do blast of chaos and then they go back to the pattern. So, that's interesting. Actually quite like that. Um, Otherwise, there's a variety of feel. That first track's quite energetic. There's some, well, at least one track later is almost kind of cool jazz. There's some gentle, as I said, almost classical parts in it. Theme Libre contains proper, what I was going to call duck squawking sack free jazz, which is when they make the sack go honk and everybody's just going, it's like scribble in music. And I didn't really enjoy that track. So my understanding is that it was recorded in quite a hurry because the visas were running out when they were in Paris. I would say I think that shows in the kind of just the technical polishing of it. I feel like it feels a bit rushed. Um, it's an interesting album in some ways because it's got these mixes of different styles in here. There's definitely a kind of musical sense of humor going on here that I feel like is something that was definitely of this time. So where were we? 1970, and I want to reference the Residents. Now, these guys are much more accomplished as musicians than the Residents ever seem to give the impression of being. And some Frank Zappa stuff, not that it's stylistically really the same as Frank Zappa, but it's got the same kind of sense of humor behind it, I feel like musically. Um, Bottom line, did I enjoy it? That's a fairly difficult question. Some bits, and some of the bits that I enjoyed quite a bit. Some of it was way too free jazz for me, I think. I have learnt that proper free jazz is not to my taste. And my favourite track was definitely the first track, which is a really strong track to my mind. But that's just my opinion. And what's my opinion worth? Your opinion's more important than my opinion, surely. Please, would you tell me what you think of this album by leaving me a comment? That's it from me for now.